Good morning, students. Welcome to the topic on the kidney. The R.A.T.S in pathology is of paramount importance as far as the chapter on the kidney is concerned because not a single topic can be omitted. You shall understand why I am saying so. This is a case history. A 10-year-old boy presented with fever and rigor. He was referred to a urologist and this investigation was done. What is the investigation? Discuss the pathogenesis, pathological manifestations of this disease. Enlist the other probable causes. The mark distribution is given here. The topic for the day is pyelonephritis, which can be asked as an essay, a practical question, short essay, short note, MCQ, and a viva topic for discussion. It is defined as an infective renal disorder affecting the tubules, interstitium, and the renal pelvis. The Greek word phylum means pelvis and nephros means kidney. Itis obviously means inflammation. Hence, pyelonephritis is an inflammation of the kidney secondary to infection. There are two main types, namely acute and chronic. Acute generally is of a short duration, chronic a long duration. However, we should be careful that there can be a lot of overlap between these two terms and they should be used judiciously in any of the questions. Let me cover the diagram first. These are the normal common cells that are present in the rectal mucosa and there is a close proximity of this to the bladder and the uterus. As a result of which you find that there can be a traverse of infection to the bladder. The common organisms are the gram-negative bacilli such as E. coli, Proteus, Klebsiella, and Enterobacter. This will constitute a set of infections. Another group will be the Streptococcus and the Staphylococcus, which are of more importance as a hematogenous mode of spread. For any of the infection to persist, there has to be what is called as colonization of the bacteria. They form a group and there is adhesion by means of the fimbriae or the phyli. Females are generally more prone for the urinary tract infection and pyelonephritis because of the intercourse. Second, a condition called as honeymoon cystitis, in which there can be a localization of the infection. Third point can be the shorter urethra in the females, which leads to greater proximity and the ascendance of the infections. Also, there is an absence of antibacterial action, such as the prostatic fluid in the females. So these predispose to more infections in the females. Other than this, there can be outflow obstruction, which is common to the male and the female. This is a diagram showing a bacillus, which is having receptors, as well as you find that there are the fimbriae. So these get attached to it, and also the phyli and the fimbriae help in the adhesion of the bacilli, after which there is a colonization and a proliferation. And this is the host membrane that is shown. This diagram is of great importance and it is worth spending some time with it. As mentioned earlier, there are two modes of spread of infection. One is a hematogenous spread, another is an ascending spread. Hematogenous is from the blood. A focus of infection from elsewhere, such as a dental abscess, an osteomyelitis, infective endocarditis, etc., can lead to the spread of infection to the kidneys via the blood. And the common organisms are the staphylococcus and the streptococcus. And this will be the different presentation. Also, there is another mode of spread called the ascending infection. As mentioned in the previous diagram, there is a close proximity, localization of the bacilli within the bladder leading to a cystitis, and then there is an ascendance of infection. There is also a mechanism called vesico-ureteric reflux, which will be dealt with in detail. And once it is up, you find that in the renal pelvis and the calyces, it can go to the poles of it and leading to a different pattern of infection. This is an ascending mode of infection and this is a descending or a hematogenous mode of infection. As mentioned earlier, there are two types of pyelonephritis, namely acute and chronic. Acute is of a short duration, chronic is of a longer duration. In acute pyelonephritis, we get what is called as a suppurative inflammation. Suppuration means there is a liquefactive type of necrosis and then there can be an abscess formation. There is a destruction of the tubules, tubular necrosis, and there can be peritubular abscess formation. Grossly, this is what people see. We find multiple lesions in the external surface itself. They are yellowish white, irregular. Sometimes they can fuse together, leading to a subcapsular abscesses. In the early stage, histologically it is restricted to the interstitium. The interstitium is the tissue that supports the tubules and the glomeruli. In the later stage, the tubules are destroyed. There is the formation of an abscess. Glomeruli are generally resistant to pyelonephritis. Generally. Look at this picture over here. The kidney is not contracted. There is no scar that I am seeing, but instead I am finding multiple yellowish gray or yellowish white spots that are seen on the cortical surfaces. In some areas, they are all fused together. So this is a typical appearance of an acute pyelonephritis. The predisposing conditions can be urinary obstruction, any form of urinary obstruction. We have seen the chapter on hydronephrosis. So it can be a posterior urethral valve or it can be a case of a benign prostatic hyperplasia or it can be a lymphoma, etc. All of this can lead to a urinary obstruction. Instrumentation, catheterization is something that is very commonly predisposing to a urinary infection. Vesico-ureteric reflux. You find from the bladder it ascends the ureter. This shall be explained in detail. Pregnancy, another condition where there can be an obstruction. As far as the sexual distribution, you find that less than 1 year, males will be greater than females in incidence. This is because they can have greater amount of congenital abnormalities. But after a certain period, you find that females are more prone than males for urinary tract infection. In fact, they can be 10 times more common than males. Diabetes mellitus, a condition that can predispose. Immunosuppression, administration of steroids, and also any form of immunodeficiency, primary or secondary, can all predispose to acute pyelonephritis. This list of conditions you people should know, and there can be an overlap between the acute and the chronic pyelonephritic etiology. This is a variant of an acute pyelonephritis. The kidney, the cut surface is shown. Externally, this is the cortex. These are the renal pyramids. In the renal pyramid, I am finding gray white areas which are occupying the distal two-thirds of the length. So this is a typical distribution of a condition called as necrotizing papillitis. This is classical of diabetes mellitus. It is a type of coagulative necrosis, and if it is going to persist, it can lead to a pyonephrosis. Pyonephrosis is the entire kidney can virtually be converted into a bag of pus. It is an acute pyelonephritis, so I will be finding acute inflammatory cells such as the neutrophils. But in the later stages, they will be replaced by macrophages, plasma cells, and lymphocytes. So remember this will be asked as an MCQ, necrotizing papillitis involving the distal two-thirds of the pyramid, classical in diabetes mellitus. Now what can be the clinical presentation of a urinary tract infection or a pyelonephritis? One will be the costovertebral pain. We used to call it a flank pain. Fever with rigor, again of importance. There are some conditions where the patient can present with fever and rigor. Pneumonia, for example, malaria, filariasis, and urinary tract infection. Dysuria, a painful urination. Frequency of urination is also there because of irritation of the mucosa. Bacteriuria means the number of bacteria that you people can see. And in the case of UTI or in a pyelonephritis, it will be 3 to 5 million per cubic millimeter. Neutrophilic leukocytosis can be there. Sometimes there can be a cast. Cast means it is an outline of the tubule. So the entire tubule is being obstructed by the cells and they form a cast called the leukocytic blast. And when you do a culture and sensitivity, it will be positive. This is what I was explaining initially. There is an acute pyelonephritis, chronic pyelonephritis. You find that one can lead to the other. And similarly, it can be asymptomatic or there can be associated lower urinary tract infection. All of these are interconnected. Asymptomatic, it can be a chronic renal disease. Finally, if it is totally untreated, it can lead to a chronic renal disease and a renal failure. So this particular flow diagram is for a concept. It is not for memorizing. Look at this one. I hope you people are able to identify the kidney, though the corticomedullary differentiation is totally destroyed. And look at this half of the kidney. There are areas of necrosis. If I am able to touch it, it will be somewhat cheesy. Yes, yellowish white areas of granulomatous necrosis. And in this, I'll be able to see the total destruction is there. Classical of tuberculous pyelonephritis. This is a variant of chronic pyelonephritis. This diagram again is of importance. I would like you people to kindly look at both the pictures and find out what the difference is. In one, it is a condition called as vesico-ureteric reflux. And the urine comes into the ureter from the bladder. And since it is a back pressure, it goes to the poles of the kidney. It goes to the poles. And these calyces are blunted and the inflammation is confined to this region. As a result of which there is scarring and there is a narrowing of the cortex. These areas appear normal. This is one picture. In another condition, there is obstruction. For example, renal calculus, etc. When there is an obstruction, there is stasis. Stasis will lead to infection. So there is a back flow of it and it is transmitted equally to all parts of the kidney, as a result of which you find this blunting is seen throughout, and there is a narrowing of the cortex leading to scarring. So there are two different pathogenesis. This is a very important picture that we people should remember. Look at the kidney. Normally the kidney is smooth externally, but in this I am finding multiple lines and depressions. These are coarse scars. Whenever there is a chronic inflammation, there will be fibrosis, and fibrosis will lead to scarring. Scarring will lead to contraction. Now, in a case of pyelonephritis, the infection can be unilateral or it can be bilateral. If it is going to be bilateral, you find that the scars are asymmetrical. Generally, we call it as asymmetrically and coarsely contracted kidney. These are all coarse scars, whereas there are some conditions where we will be having fine scars that we will be dealing with later. And when you go to the cut surface, there can be a hydronephrosis also because of the stasis and the distension. And generally, the external surface as well as the pelvic ileal area will be a little rough because of the inflammation. The capsule is adherent. When you try to peel it off, a part of the parenchyma will come along with it. That is because of the adherent capsule. So this is important. Kidney is contracted, asymmetrical, and the scars are coarse. There can be underlying hydronephrosis, and the inner surface of the pelvic ileal system is rough. This is the picture that I had projected first. It is called a voiding cystourethrogram. Probably the patient was having a urinary infection and this has been done. A contrast material is injected into the bladder, and when the patient passes urine, generally what should happen is it should pass outside. But in this picture I am finding the contrast material is ascending the ureter. This is called as vesicoureteric reflux. And this is a vesicoureteric reflux. Why does it happen? So this is the bladder, the ureter, the walls of the ureter, and the inner lumen. Normally, when anyone is voiding or passing urine, the bladder contracts, as a result of which this orifice is closed and there is no back passage of urine. But in this case, there is an incomplete closure or it is not closed at all, as a result of which the urine is passed out and also simultaneously it ascends the ureter. This leads to a backflow of urine leading to a pyelonephritis. This is called vesicoureteric reflux. This you people will have to describe in detail. And this is a voiding cystourethrogram. Though a little out of context, the urologists, they are doing an amazing job. Look at this one. By means of a simple procedure, this is a ureteric orifice, and since this area is open, they try to support the external area by means of a bulking agent, and they narrow it down. And now what happens when the patient tries to pass urine, this orifice is closed, there is no backflow of urine. So this is the, and there won't be a back pressure and a flow into the ducts of Bellini. This diagram I had explained earlier, still it is worth it. It is a picture of a kidney with core scars in the polar regions, upper and the lower poles. The corresponding area shows a narrowing of the cortex and the parenchyma. You find that there is a dilatation of the calyces at the polar region and there is a blunting. Sometimes there can be cupping also. These terms we had used earlier. Thinning of the cortex, blunting of the calyces, widening of the pelvic ileal system, and scarring. Chronic pyelonephritis, please do describe this. This will happen in a case of vesicoureteric reflux. If there is going to be an obstruction somewhere over here, pressure is uniform and the entire kidney will be showing coarse scars. This is a diagram for you people to draw. This picture we had explained, compare both. I'm sure that you people will be able to draw a diagram of it. All the gray color indicates scars and the pink is a normal parenchyma. And these are the normal renal pyramids which are absent over here. Compare both. Microscopically, what do you see? Basically, it is a disease of the tubules. These are all the renal tubules. There is stasis, there is a precipitation of protein. And this leads to infection and inflammation. And the inflammation, this area in between the tubule is called the interstitium. It is a supporting fine fibroconnective tissue. And look at the dark blue dots, they are all the chronic inflammatory cells. The normal chronic inflammatory cells that we see are lymphocytes, plasma cells. Sometimes foamy macrophages can be seen and they are xanthogranulomatous pyelonephritis. So this is an interstitium that is showing chronic inflammatory infiltrate. The tubule showing proteinaceous material. And sometimes there is a periglomerular region. It is showing proliferation of fibrous tissue. We call it as periglomerular fibrosis. Very, very rarely you find an entire glomerulus can undergo fibrosis or sclerosis. So these are the changes. So there is something called as thyroidization we will be showing in the next picture, and then there is an interstitial inflammation, periglomerular fibrosis, rarely glomerulosclerosis. This is a higher magnification. It looks as though I am seeing a thyroid tissue, and this resembles the thyroid follicles. In fact, they are all the renal tubules. The tubules are a little distended and they are filled with pinkish material, homogeneous material, which resembles colloid. Hence, this is called as thyroidization. The interstitium is the supporting tissue. It is showing dark blue dots such as lymphocytes and plasma cells. Later on, there can be interstitial fibrosis. Also, as mentioned in the previous picture, there can be a periglomerular fibrosis. Glomeruli are usually spread. In one condition, there will be foamy macrophages, which is called as xanthogranulomatous pyelonephritis. Please remember these variations. A lot of questions. Thyroidization, for example, is a repeatedly asked MCQ. Even otherwise, if you write thyroidization, you get a mark over it. What can be the complications? If a renal infection is not treated, it can lead to an acute renal failure. One of the common causes for an acute renal failure is recurrent pyelonephritis. Septicemia. Infection from other areas can come to the kidney. From the kidney, they can go to the blood, which is called as septicemia. Stasis can lead to renal calculi. Infection can lead to calculi. Calculi can lead to infection. There is a condition called as triple phosphate, magnesium ammonium phosphate, or a struvite stone, or a staghorn calculus, which is a complication occurring because of recurrent infection. Lower urinary tract infection also is possible. Metaplasia. Usually the lining epithelium is transitional. There can be a squamous metaplasia in a case of renal infection. Malignancy is a very rare complication which can occur in recurrent urinary tract infection. Dr. Dario, pass.